Hello, my name is Todd Brooks. I'm a retired trooper with the Kansas Highway Patrol. What we're going to do today is we're going to act like we're doing a roadside inspection on this truck, and we're going to go ahead and talk to the driver now. When you're being stopped, you just want to stay in the vehicle. Hello driver, how are you today?
Fine, sir, how are you?
Good, good. You mind if I open up your door today?
You're quite right.
Good, good. Main reason I want to open up the door is so I can see the driver, see what the condition of the truck is, make sure everything's nice and clean. There aren't going to be anything that rolls around that might get underneath the pedals, any excessive dirt, garbage, anything like that. I also want to be able to see that he's wearing his seatbelt. Hopefully I've seen this before I stopped him and realized that it is there and he is wearing it properly. The other thing I have to look at up here too is getting the GVWR off of the vehicle, off of the lists, or off of the labels on the side of the truck, and look things over like that. Hello sir, could I get your driver's license from you today?
Yes, sir.
Reason why I stopped you today is just going to take a look at your truck, make sure everything's in order.
Okay. Didn't
stop you for any reason, speeding or anything like that. All right, so we've got that, and we'll go ahead and take a look at your truck. Do you have a logbook today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And we'll pull that up and take a look at it, and we'll look at it more in detail later on, so I'll give you that back for right now. All right, sir. Where are you coming from?
Kansas City.
And where are you going to?
Omaha.
Oh, okay. Do you have any hazardous material, anything on the vehicle like that?
No, sir.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and take a look at everything.
Okay.
I see this is your registration book.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's take a quick glance at that. What I want to make sure to look at for in the registration book is that we actually have registration, and it is the current one. This one expires next year, so that is good. It does cover Kansas. It is from Kansas. And we want to make sure that's there. Usually that should be the first sheet in there. We also want to look at IFTA, make sure that it is proper and the current one for the current year. We also want to look at insurance. Even though insurance is not required by the federal regulations to be carried in the vehicle, it's always good to be in there, because if there is an accident, they're always going to ask you for that. So we want to make sure that it is current and it is the proper year, so that's good. Anything else, there might be an annual inspection in the vehicle. In the book, we want to look for that if it is, but I believe on this vehicle, it's on the vehicle itself. All right, sir, what we're going to do today is take a look at all your lights and tires and everything. So what I need you to do is go ahead and turn your key on. Turn on all your lights, please. Okay, and I'm going to step up front there. We're going to run through your high beams, turn signals, all that. Just watch for my hand signals, please. On the front of the truck, of course, I'm looking for headlights. I want to make sure that they are white. And we do have side marker lights. They have to be amber. We also have to have the ID lights, the 3 in the center, and the clearance lights, the 2 on the outside. All of them have to be amber. How about your high beams? Good. We must have high beams operating properly along with low beams. And your turn signal? Good. Other side? Good. How about your 4-way hazards? Okay, good. And horn? Good. All right. Up here, I'm also looking at the general condition of the vehicle, making sure everything's in order, nothing's going to fall off. I'm looking at the general condition of the windshield. Want to make sure that there's no huge cracks, damage to that. How about your wipers? And your washer? Good. Okay, that's all working properly. Come around here. Again, I'm looking also from the side. I'm looking for a side marker light. It does have to be amber. Coming around here, I want to make sure too that the hood is nice and latched and it's in place. I can feel up here that the latch is there. I will be opening it up later on, so I'll go ahead and unlatch it for now. I'm going to take a look at the tire, general condition of the tire. I want to make sure that the tread is more than 4/32 everywhere on the tire. I want to look at the sidewalls for any cuts, any damage, looking at the tread itself for any objects in the tread. I'm also going to be looking at the wheel. I'm looking for any cracks, any problems here, making sure that all of the lug nuts are nice and tight. Another major item is this cap right here. That does have to be in place. There can't be any damage to it, weathered, cracked, or anything like that. It does have to be in place. That would be an automatic out of service if it was not. Moving on down the vehicle, I'm going to take a look at the rearview mirror, make sure that it's not going to fall off and has any damage. It's all there and in place. Continuing down the vehicle, looking at all of the caps for everything, making sure nothing's going to fall off. The fuel cap, the fuel tank itself needs to be nice and tight. Fuel cap needs to be on. Of course, I'm looking for any leaks, any damage here. Need to make sure that on the side of the vehicle we have the company name. We have US DOT number and all the numbers there. In Kansas, we are required to have the gross vehicle weight, what it's registered for, so that would be 80,000 pounds. Moving on down the vehicle, again looking for any damage, anything that might be falling off, anything that shouldn't be here. Once I get up here, start looking at the hoses, I'm looking for any damage to the hoses, making sure that it's got plenty of hose to stretch out whenever the vehicle makes a turn. Again, looking for any damage, any problems with it, any kinks in the hoses. Of course, listening for any leaks. Once I get into this area too, I can start looking at the brake chambers and looking at the frame. I also want to see that the drive shaft is good. There's no problems there. These being wedge brakes, they're quite easily to just check that they are there and no damage to the pods themselves. Looking at the frame, I'm looking for any cracks in the frames, looking for any loose nuts, any missing brackets, anything that's fallen off or coming loose. On the front of the trailer, we must have a side marker light and a clearance light. This one is on a 45-degree angle, so it acts as both. Again, getting back here, I'm looking at tires, trying to find little things like rocks, anything like that that's on the tires. Giving them a good slap usually tells me that they're aired up. Again, I'm looking for any damage to the tires. Any tread depth is less than 2/32 on these, it would be a violation, or any pieces that are missing. Again, the wheel, looking for cracks, any problems here, looking at all the lug nuts, making sure that they're all in place and nice and tight, and no problems there. Also want to take a look inside the tires, in between the tires, and make sure that there's nothing in between, stuck in between them. Of course, I'm looking at suspension. I'm looking at the fifth wheel here, making sure that it's in place. I'm looking for any missing bolts, any cracks. This is a slider axle, so it must have the fore and aft stops on 4 different locations on that plate to make sure that that doesn't come off. Making sure that the locking handle is locked in place since we are hooked up to a trailer. And again, looking for any cracks, any problems in that area. Same thing with, again, the frame, any of the spring hangers, looking for any problems there, cracks in any of that. Again, looking at tires, lug nuts, wheels, making sure there's no problems, damage to them. Looking down the side of the vehicle, I must have at least 50% of red and white reflective tape that covers at least 50% of the vehicle, spaced out evenly. At this one, of course, has 100%, so that's good. Looking at the trailer frame, I want to make sure everything is there. No damage, no cracks, no problems to the frame as we go along too. Making sure that the landing gear is all the way up. The handle, if it is locked in place, that would be best. Once I get back here to the back of the vehicle, of course I have to have the red and white reflective tape on either side. This must total at least 24 inches on both of the either the mud flap brackets, the mud flaps themselves. They can mount a bracket above the mud flaps, or they could even put them on the back of the sleeper if they needed to, if there wasn't any brackets or anything back here. On the back of the vehicle also, I need to make sure that we do have tail lights. Even though there's a trailer on here, we must have the proper lights back here. So we've got tail lights. Step on your brakes. Good. Your turn signal. Other side. And reverse. You may need to start it up to get it in reverse. Good. There is a tag light back here, but there is no tag, so a tag light is not required. Again, moving down the vehicle, I'm looking for anything that's on the trailer, any loose items. We do have a little bit of rocks, some dirt, some things like that that need to be cleaned off. That could become flying objects. So we need to get that stuff off of there. Again, looking down the side of the vehicle, looking for maybe dunnage or anything that might be on the side, making sure that it would be secured. Halfway down the vehicle, we must have an ID light that is amber in color. It does have to work. It doesn't have to be a turn signal. It's just a side marker light. It does have to be there. Coming back here, again, looking at the frame, looking at the brake pods, brake chambers, any of the brakes themselves, if I can see them from here, which here we can. I can see the brake pad is thick enough for which it has to be more than 1/4 of an inch. Again, looking at tires, making sure they're nice and pumped up. Again, the wheels, looking at lug nuts, looking for any problems, cracks, damage to the sidewalls on all the tires. Since we do have a sliding axle, I need to make sure that the pins are in place into the frame, fully engaged. We've got one back here also. They need to be fully engaged. Making sure our mud flap is there and not going to fall off. Also want to take a look at the ABS lights since we're back here. Turn your key on. The ABS light must come on. You can hear it clicks and so forth. It's doing a test. The light must come on, must go off. Just like that. It's that simple. Turn the key on, light comes on, turn the key off, it's gone. Once we get back to the back of the vehicle, again, I must have tail lights, turn signals, brake lights, okay, ID lights. All 3 of these ID lights must have a tag light that's working. On the reflective sheeting, must have 100% all the way across the back of the trailer and also on the rear end protection. Looking at the rear end protection, depending on what year it is, I want to make sure it's big enough. It must come out almost to the very edge, as far out as possible to the rear without protruding. All right, coming around here, I see a violation right here. This light is not working. The side marker light, that must be there. It must be red on the rear of the trailer. Reflective sheeting is there, looking good. Again, looking at the pins, looking at the frame as we go along, looking for any cracks. Lug nuts, same thing here. Wheel, looking for any leaks, any damage to the wheels. Looking at the tires, making sure they're aired up. Have plenty of tread. Again, back here, anything less than 2/32 is a violation. Looking at this tire right here, we're at 2/32 or less. Looking at this wear bar right here, there's also another wear bar right here. It's either at 2/32 or less. And we are right at 2/32. And that's a little bit less than 2/32 right there, so that is a violation. That's right at 2/32. I also want to look for pieces of chunks of tire that might be missing, tread, anything like that. This one's got a pretty good cut in it. right here, and a missing piece of tread. I can't see cord, so we at least want to make sure that this tire gets replaced. It's already got a violation for low tread. Again, the same thing on the wheel itself, lug nuts, making sure that they're in place and nice and tight, not coming loose. Again, looking at the brakes chambers, brakes themselves, what I can see from up top. Getting close, they're still not in violation yet. Again, side marker light needs to be in place. Again, looking for any cracks in the frames, missing bolts, anything loose, any cracks in the fifth wheel, any problems as we go along. Again, our side marker light, clearance light combination. Here we have another item that's just sticking here on the dash, or excuse me, on the deck. And so that would be a violation for load securement. Making sure that the hood is nice, securely latched. Go ahead and open that up. With the hood open, I can get a better look at this tire, making sure that it's got plenty of tread on it. Looking for any problems, any cracks, any cuts, anything in it. Again, the lug nuts. The oil plug is there and in place. With the hood up, I get a better view of the frame and springs and suspension. I can sometimes look at the brakes themselves, making sure there's no problems here. We do have a slight problem here on this hose. It looks like it's been rubbing up against probably the hood fender flare. And it is a bit of a flat spot. I can feel it's flattened out, so that would be a violation. It's most likely rubbing right in here somewhere when that comes down. Again, looking for any problems with the frames, any leaks from the engine, anything like that. Again, over on this side, I'm looking for anything rubbing up against the hose. Looks like there was possibly something rubbing there, but there's no flat spots in it. So I would probably just alert the driver that there's something going on. We need to check and see. It looks like it might have been rubbing from a time once in a while there. So need to advise the driver of that problem, and they need to put some type of a protective coating or something over that to ensure that nothing, the damage does not continue. Again, looking at the tire, I can look at the inside of the tire now with the hood open. I can again look on everything on this side, springs, looking for any problems. A lot of times too, I'll have the driver do this, or I'll do it myself. Reach up here and I'll check the steering. I can turn it myself. What I'm looking for is securement of this whole thing. I'm looking for any damage in the steering column, any problems. Looking to make sure there's no looseness of that yoke on there. Making sure that the gearbox itself is nice and secure. I'm looking also at for any movement of the pitman arm on the output shaft. Making sure there's no movement there, which we're good. Looking for excessive movement of the ball joints as I go along. And look at that, everything looks okay on that issue. All right, sir, can I open up your door again, please? All right. What I need to do, it sounds like your air is depleted down. So we do have brake lights, and the low air light is on at this time. Go ahead and start up your engine, and we'll let that brake get pumped back up. At that time too, I could see that the ABS light came on. It went off after a second. Just that simple. That's the test of ABS, that it is working. All right, the light went out. One of the lights went out. And then is that just because the parking brake is set? Okay. So we've got air. The low air light went out. You can go ahead and shut it off again. The low air light turned off once the air got pumped back up. So we're good there. At this point, if I wanted to continue doing with a level 1, I would get my chocks out, get my creeper out, go up underneath the vehicle and check out from the bottom side, looking at drive shaft, looking at brakes, measuring the brakes, making sure everything's working properly, and continuing with that inspection. Once we get done with that, or at least that level 2 that we just finished walking around the vehicle, again, I would ask for the registration book. I also want to take a look at your fire extinguisher and triangle reflectors. You can go ahead and jump out of the vehicle too at this time if you'd like, driver. I want to make sure that the fire extinguisher, that the driver does know where the fire extinguisher is in the first place. I want to make sure that it is mounted. There's nothing going to damage it, roll up against it, it's smashed in there. It's easy access to it. I also want to look at the gauge, making sure that the gauge is in the green. So that's good. And then your triangle reflectors. Triangle reflectors over here. We've got a package of spare fuses, of electrical fuses that must be there in case there was a problem with the electrical system. I want to open that up. I want to take a look at the triangles, making sure that they're good, in good working order. Making sure they're in good working order. They look good. And we can go ahead and close that. And then at this point, I would take everything back to my vehicle, do up a report, explain any violations to the driver, and then either send him down the road or escort him somewhere to be placed out of service to fix whatever the problem may be.